to your new project. So we are using the web application Photopea or Photopea, however you want to pronounce it. So you're going to go to photopea.com and you'll notice it looks a lot like Photoshop. So it's a great online tool if you don't have access to Photoshop on your computer already. And what I want you to do first is pair up with a family member and have them take a photo of your face. And then you're going to take a photo of their face. Try to do it on the same background, roughly the same size, same lighting. Try to make it a front portrait of the face. And then what you're going to do is bring those photos onto the device that you're using for your Photopea project. So for me, it was my computer. So I'm using my MacBook, and I have airdropped my photos onto my MacBook. So what I'm going to do is go File, and I'm going to Open, and my partner at home here is Mr. Filion, so we're taking our photos, and I just selected both photos, and I'm opening them in Photopea. And what it'll do is it'll open these images on two different documents, so you'll see them up here at the top. So here's one and here's the other. And what we're going to do is use your own face as the canvas, but we're going to make a Frankenstein using features of your family member mixed with your own features. So, for example, if we want to add Mr. Filion's eye to our Frankenstein person, I could use something like the lasso tool here and just kind of cut out around his eye. So there we have a cutout. And I'm going to copy this, so edit, copy, and then I'm going to go to my image and I'm going to edit, paste. And what we can do is we can put this eye kind of like where it would roughly be on my portrait. If you need to scale it at all, you would go Edit, Transform, or Free Transform. I'm going to use Transform Scale. Just drag his eye a little bit bigger to better match up with the size of my eye. Maybe that's a little bit too big, so something like that. And then we want to be able to blend in the skin tones because they don't quite match up. So if we zoom in, and unfortunately I'm zooming in on my browser here, so that's not looking great. There we go. If we zoom in, you can see obviously a difference in the outline. So we want to try to get rid of these things and we want to color correct it a little bit. So what we're going to do is, oops, just going to scroll over here so I can see my view. What we're going to do is use some of the tools that you've previously used in your Photoshop project. So remember how you used the eraser tool, the clone stamp tool, and the healing brush. So these are the three that I would say will be really useful for this project. So for the eraser tool, if you go into the eraser actual brush right up here at the top toolbar, this is where you can adjust the size of your brush, and you can just scroll over your canvas to see the size. And the hardness, remember to set it down to 0%. So we want it to be really blendy and be able to do what we want here. So if I go on top of this layer, which is the eye, if I just kind of stamp a little bit with my eraser on that brush, you see how I can just like blend his eye very naturally into my face. So that's one way that you can kind of start to add features of one person's face into the other. Let's do something a little bit more fun. Let's do maybe the whole like beard area next because I think that will be pretty hilarious to add. So I'm going to take my lasso tool again and I'm just like cutting around the beard. So once we have the beard selected, we're going to go to Select, Modify Feather. And if we just increase the pixel amount of the feathered edge, so you could increase it, for example, to 5, what it actually does is it just makes it really smooth around that edge. So you can play around with how much you want to increase that. And then you're going to go Edit, Copy, and go back to your original. And before we get any further, I actually did want to mention to you guys that it might be helpful to name your layers. So I'm going to name that my name, and then this is going to be eye, because I know this is Mark's eye. And then what we could do is we could edit, paste, and the beard gets pasted in. So now we could move this beard to a spot that's a bit more natural. We might need to play with the scale of it. Transform, scale, and just kind of make it line up a bit more naturally to my face. There we go. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to clean up the edges again, right? So if the skin tones don't quite match, something you could do is you could go into Image, Adjustments, and play around with color balance, hue saturation, brightness contrast, levels. So these are things that you can play around with in order to match the skin tones. Since our skin tones match fairly well here, I'm not going to do too much of that. I think I want to also just keep feathering my edges. So with my eraser tool, and I've already set my settings before, what we're going to do, I'm just going to step backwards there for a second, is just very gently erase these edges. And what I'm doing is I'm not erasing with a really crisp line, right? So that's why it was so important to have this eraser on a low hardness at 0%, because we can just go around these edges and really make this look real. Make my beard look real. Okay. So it just blends in naturally. Here, beard. And then I just want you to keep going. So I want you to keep looking at what you can add from your family member's picture, what features would be hilarious to add to yourself, and really give it a kind of a Frankenstein look, right? So blending half of your features with half of their features. And again, playing around with the eraser tool, the lasso tool. You can play with, again, those image options that I showed you, copying and pasting. If you get to a point where you need to do some healing, so for example, the healing brush can also be something people use in Photoshop just to make their pictures, like if you had an imperfection that you wanted to touch up, you could use the healing brush. So for example, if I go to my photo here and I want to get rid of that wrinkle there, what I can do is I can go to my healing brush and make it bigger, bring my hardness down again, and if I just go over top of that section, and remember this is an online program, so it sometimes lags a little bit, you can see that I just kind of smoothed out that wrinkle. So you can also play with that too. Just remember that you have to be on the right layer in order to make all of those things look well. So I'm going to keep playing with this. I'm going to create a Frankenstein of myself and Mr. Filion, and I will post it on Classroom soon. I can't wait to see what you guys create. Remember to get a level 4 on any project. You need to go above and beyond the expectations. So, really show that you know how to use these tools, maybe even investigate by doing online tutorials, looking on YouTube, seeing what else you can add to your picture. Okay, have fun, guys. If you have any questions, just let me know in classroom.